What are Labour's red lines and where are you prepared to compromise? So really, really specifically, if you could be as crystal clear as you could, is a second referendum a red line for Labour in these talks?
Well, so I wouldn't couch it in terms of a second referendum, but our party policy has always been that firstly we want to get a Brexit deal that puts our economy and living standards first and protects, our environmental protections, workplace protections, health and safety standards. We want a customs union arrangement in order to keep our borders open so that our manufacturing industry isn't detrimentally affected and we keep the movement of goods as freely flowing as possible. And we want a strong single market relationship. Now, we're not being hugely prescriptive on the minute detail of specific elements because we are willing to be compromising, we're willing to be flexible, and we've reiterated that numerous times to the government, and there has been movement in certain areas. We've been having fantastic discussions on workers' rights, for example, and the government seems quite amenable to moving towards certainly what I've been asking for, but we're waiting to see at the moment whether that turns into pens on paper in terms of legislation and real hard, fast entrenchment provisions. But we have been having productive discussions, and I'm hopeful that over the coming weeks that we will see some movement, and certainly that's the intention that I'm going into the discussions with, and indeed the Labour colleagues that are sitting with me.
So listening to your answer there, if you got what you wanted on a customs union and a close relationship with the single market, would Labour be prepared to sign off that deal if it wasn't put back to the public again?
Well, what we've said in terms of the policy that was set out at our conference last year was that to avoid a damaging Tory Brexit...
from last year, haven't they? We're talking about the cross-party talks that are happening now.
Well, in order to be happy with a deal, it would have to satisfy what the Labour Party has been trying to achieve in terms of that close economic relationship, that close collaboration with Europe, that no undermining of environment, climate change, health and safety standards, workers' rights, etc., etc. And that's what we're trying to move towards in terms of our deal. But if we don't get a deal that satisfies those objectives, it's a damaging deal, a damaging Tory Brexit deal, or there's a risk of us moving towards a no deal. In that circumstance, we've said that all options should be on the table, and that includes campaigning for a public vote. But our priority in these negotiations is to find a consensus and to get a deal that we know will protect the economy.
So it sounds like to me a second referendum is not a red line for Labour in the talks. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a public vote in the event of the situation that I've just outlined has always been our party policy. Now, we have to be flexible in where we move on. We've got to keep all options on the table, and that's what we're doing. So until we find out what the final deal will be, we are, of course, pushing, the government to consider, the policy option that we have, which is a public vote in order to avoid a damaging no-deal Brexit or a bad deal. And they're considering that. They haven't come back with any confirmation as to whether they'll move on that red line, as they haven't with a number of their other red lines, but certainly we're outlining our party policy very, very clearly.